Your brain is not a happiness machine. It is a prediction engine. And that changes almost everything about modern life, because the human nervous system did not evolve to keep you fulfilled. It evolved to keep you alive, which means your brain is constantly scanning for instability, uncertainty, social threat, future danger, unresolved outcomes. Not occasionally, continuously. And for most of human history, that system worked relatively well. A threat appeared, the body reacted, the danger passed, the nervous system recovered. But modern life changed the equation completely, because now the threats rarely arrive fully. They hover. A message that hasn't arrived yet, a future that hasn't stabilized yet, a relationship that feels uncertain, an audience silently evaluating you, an algorithm that could erase visibility overnight. Everything remains psychologically open, and the nervous system never fully exits prediction mode. This is why so many people feel exhausted now, without understanding why, because anxiety is no longer simply an emotion. It became an environment. You wake up already braced, before the notification, before the email, before anything actually happens. The body is already anticipating impact. And anticipation is neurologically expensive, because the brain spends enormous energy attempting to predict outcomes it cannot resolve. This is why uncertainty often feels more exhausting than reality itself. The brain can survive impact. What destabilizes it is endless prediction. More than a century ago, the Danish philosopher Søren Kierkegaard described anxiety as the dizziness of freedom. Not fear of collapse, fear of possibility. Kierkegaard understood something modern culture would later amplify brutally. The human nervous system struggles when too many futures remain psychologically open at the same time. Every possible path creates another prediction loop, another imagined self, another unresolved future the mind attempts to simulate continuously. Modern life turned that dizziness into infrastructure. At almost every moment now, you are reachable, comparable, searchable, evaluated, replaceable. Not physically, psychologically. The modern person no longer simply lives. They manage exposure. And once life becomes performative, the nervous system changes with it. Because visibility alters behavior. The self begins splitting in two. One part experiences life, the other watches itself experiencing life. How am I perceived? Am I succeeding fast enough? Am I attractive enough? Relevant enough? Interesting enough? Human consciousness becomes recursive. The mind starts monitoring itself in real time. And eventually, self-awareness turns into psychological noise. This is where modern anxiety deepens. Because the nervous system was never designed to absorb this much simultaneously comparison. Thousands of lives, identities, opinions, bodies, and possible selves competing for psychological attention at once. Every day, the result is psychic overload. And this is where Jean-Paul Sartre becomes important. Sartre believed modern freedom creates existential pressure. To choose one life means abandoning countless others. And for Sartre, that burden never disappears. Every decision silently kills alternative versions of the self, which means modern freedom does not always feel liberating. Sometimes it feels psychologically violent, especially inside systems where every possible life remains permanently visible somewhere on a screen. For most of human history, identity was inherited. Religion gave structure, tradition gave direction, community stabilized meaning. But modern life replaced inherited identity with permanent self-construction. Now, every possible life remains permanently visible somewhere on the screen. And once possibility becomes infinite, the nervous system loses closure. This is why so many people feel emotionally suspended now, always refining, always preparing, rarely arriving. Because modern culture transformed identity into an endless project, and projects are never finished. The modern person became trapped inside optimization itself. One more upgrade, one more improvement, one more reinvention of the self. But endless self-refinement exhausts the mind, because anxiety cannot always be solved through expansion. Sometimes it decreases through limitation, commitment, focus, stillness, meaning. The nervous system often calms down not when every option remains open, but when a person consciously chooses what to close. This is what modern culture rarely admits. Freedom without structure eventually becomes psychological weight, and the system quietly profits from that weight, because anxious people scroll longer, uncertain people consume more. A nervous system trapped in prediction mode becomes highly profitable. The future will not simply harvest your data, it will harvest your anticipation, your fear, your comparison, your incompleteness. Because attention became the dominant economic force of modern civilization, and interruption became its primary weapon. Fear, outrage, novelty, desire. The nervous system became infrastructure, which means anxiety is no longer simply psychological. It became systematic. And once anxiety becomes environmental, people adapt themselves around emotional survival. They avoid stillness, silence, or confronting themselves directly. Because silence now feels uncomfortable. The moment the simulation stops, the mind reaches outward again. Scrolling, messages, music, noise. Not because people are weak, but because modern systems trained the nervous system to fear emptiness. And yet emptiness is precisely where identity once formed. Carl Jung believed that what remains unconscious eventually governs behavior from the shadows. The part of ourselves we refuse to confront do not disappear. They simply return indirectly through anxiety, compulsion, avoidance, projection, emotional exhaustion. But modern culture became extraordinarily effective at helping people avoid themselves by surrounding them with endless simulation, distraction, and performance. Anything to prevent direct confrontation with the inner world. But avoidance never resolves anxiety, because what remains unconscious never stops speaking. This is the real exhaustion of modern life, not physical overload, psychological fragmentation. A nervous system trapped between infinite possibilities, constant exposure, and permanent prediction. And this is a prophecy. The future will belong to people capable of protecting their inner world from continuous interruption. People capable of attention, of silence, of living without turning every thought into performance. Because peace may ultimately require something modern culture discourages: limits, fewer inputs, fewer identities, fewer systems negotiating for access to the self. Perhaps anxiety is not proof that you're failing. Perhaps it is evidence that the nervous system is responding honestly to environments human beings were never designed to inhabit continuously. And maybe the goal is not becoming numb enough to tolerate endless simulation. Maybe the goal is becoming conscious enough to decide what deserves access to your mind. Because a calmer life may begin the moment a person stops trying to become every possible self and fully inhabits one life deliberately, not perfectly, but consciously. Meaning may not emerge from infinite openness, but from chosen limitation, commitment, presence, rootedness. The ultimate act of rebellion in the modern world may no longer be expansion, but subtraction. To close the open loops, to decline the performance, to reclaim the inner territory from permanent exposure. And the people who reclaim that territory may become the rarest thing in modern civilization, psychologically sovereign. This is part of the TOMAAS prophecies, cinematic essays that don't just reflect the world, but read between its fractures through layered visuals and emotional pattern recognition. Art isn't decoration, it's intel. It translates what we haven't yet learned to name, because by the time everyone understands the shift, it already happened. And if something here felt uncomfortably familiar, leave the thought it triggered. Even one sentence, because by the time anxiety becomes normal, most people no longer realize the environment is making them sick. And if you're drawn to the visual work behind these ideas, you can explore more of my digital artworks and original photography at TOMAAS.com.